What's your oh frick, I am an arsehole moment. I was driving down a road and a lot of people were honking and yelling at me on the street. I got angry and flipped a bunch of people off and honked back. At the end of the street I saw a one-way sign and realized I was going in the wrong direction. The other day I was tailgating behind a car that was tailgating another car doing half the speed limit. I wondered why they didn't honk them, so instead I was about to honk a few times, but something in my subconscious told me to wait. The person between me and the slow driver changed lanes, so I got a good look of a big rear window with flowers. The car is also super long. Oh. It's a hearse. It's going slow, to be careful with the body and flowers. Oh my god, I was so glad I didn't honk. Years ago I went into a Hot Topic and as I was at the register, the girl working started telling me about all the new Metallica shirts they had gotten. For some reason, I told her I wasn't really into wearing band shirts anymore, which was mostly true, and even though I didn't mean to, it came out sounding really snobbish. At the time, I thought a reaction was kinda strange, even accounting for my accidental condescension. Shortly after I left the store I remembered I was wearing an in shirt. You made a shitty retail job brighter that day. 8th grade. Speech class. A kid had been absent a few days, and when he came back, I started rousing him a bit. We were friendly, but not friends, so I felt okay kidding around, claiming he was just pretending to be sick to get out of class, that sort of thing. Nothing really mean, though. He took it for a bit, then turned, looked me dead in the eyes, and said in the flattest voice, "No, my mother died." And turned back around. If God had struck me dead with a bolt of lightning when I stood before him at the pearly gates, I'd have said, "Yeah, fair enough." My 7th grade teacher cracked jokes in front of the class. He was known for being a ball buster after I came back from a few days absent. I did the deadpan "my papa died." He turned red, sucked in his breath, told me he was gonna go fall on some rocks now, and left me to take my seat. Someone I hadn't talked to in years came up to me and started telling me about how they haven't been doing that good lately and that they found out they have cancer. Well, I was at work and only half paying attention, so after he stopped talking I said, "That's good." Haven't seen him since. Luckily for you, this is the kind of thing where an apology has no statute of limitations. There is, however, a deadline. I was drunk at a pub and shouted for the band to play Free Bird. They stopped in the middle of the song they were playing, started up Free Bird, and called me up on stage to sing it. I froze, forgot all the lyrics and made an absolute ass of myself. Props to that band though. In early high school, late 90s, so if you got a girl's number it was the house number. I called a girl's house and her dad answered. She was out, but I noticed his speech was a bit slow and slurred. Next day at school I mentioned I had called and asked if her dad had been drinking. Well, turns out he didn't drink much since his stroke. Still feel awful about that. I was making fun of an old guy I'd seen outside our school at a basketball tournament to some friends in the locker room. He looked and talked like Farmer Fran from The Waterboy. Turned out to be the dad of one of the guys I was talking to. Still can't even think of that movie without it bringing up endless amounts of shame. At my former job my boss was looking out the window and saw this guy get out of his car and head towards out front door. Boss says out loud, "Oh man, look at this toothless redneck." Co-worker says, "That's my father-in-law." Boss told me later that'll teach me in Facipumed. Co-worker wasn't mad, he agreed Phil looked like a hick. Broke up with my first girlfriend who was really attached to me just by ignoring her. I feel so bad. I was just a kid, but that was a harsh treatment. I did the same. She literally had to run after me one day to ask if we should break up. I really suck at conflict, but what an ass thing to do. She was an amazing person too. When I realized the reason I've lost so many friends is that I'm so shitty at getting back to people. Posting on Reddit sometimes makes me reread my shit and realize I'm being an asshole. I don't do it on purpose, but I think years of reading and writing posts on the internet has tainted my tone. Try Kedgels and tone your taint instead. What's your name? I asked. Shara. Trying to be playful. Oh cool, like Sarah with a lisp. I have a lisp. My name is Sarah. Oof. My friend group tried to stay close after high school, But we all fell out of touch as you do as everyone forged their own path in life. Well, mine led me down a path of depression, anxiety, and failure. So every year or so they would hold a get-together to reconnect and hang out. I attended a couple of these, but as time went on and my downward spiral got worse, I stopped responding to calls, texts, invites, etc. Because I thought that no one would want to hang out with this version of me. I was invited to 2 weddings which I didn't even respond to because of this negative loop, and then when my best friend from that group was diagnosed with cancer, I couldn't even bring myself to face him. I tried to go to his funeral but couldn't enter the building because I felt that I didn't deserve to be there. Finally, a few months ago, the parents of one of my friends saw me at work and wanted to talk to me. They told me that my friend group was really broken up, that I ignored all of their attempts to reach out to me. It was then that I realized that in all of my stress about being miserable to be around, I had become an asshole to those who tried to care about me. Depression is so hard that way. We reject the world so others can't reject us. I am so sorry you went through that. I was in the army, making fun of a guy, said he couldn't even get a medal for something in the Special Olympics. He then pointed out his daughter was in the Special Olympics. I profusely apologized and he accepted, but it still keeps me awake at night. I once told the joke, "What's the hardest part about eating a vegetable?" "The wheelchair." To a girl in high school. She just stared blankly at me and said, "You don't know about my brother, do you?" She then pulled out her phone and showed me her lock screen. A photo of her and her brother, who had been wheelchair-bound since birth. Not my most proud moment. I developed a pretty serious drinking problem, and in one day everyone finally had enough. I got fired, kicked out of my apartment, disowned by my friends and my family. I was left utterly alone and homeless with $2,000 and a 1986 Volvo station wagon. It was coordinated between everyone in my life, and it fucking hurt. But I wouldn't take any of it back for the world. Things are far better now, but that was the sort of life event that is supposed to change you, and I let it do so for the better. Those old Volvo wagons are solid. This entire year. Been recovering from my divorce last year, and it forced me to take a honest look at myself and all the shit I used to do and how I actually treated those around me. A lot of tough to swallow pills, but a lot of much needed reflection taken place. When I was 16, I worked in a retail store and was in charge of the fitting room. You see people come in and out so much that you sometimes don't pay too close attention. A woman walked in with their preteen kid, so I pointed towards the lady's side. I only side-glanced and saw her kid was wearing a baseball cap with their head lowered and really baggy clothes. I immediately assumed the kid was a boy and pointed towards the men's side. They looked super awkward and uncomfortable before their mother corrected me and said she's my daughter. I apologized profusely and their mom decided to nag her by saying, "See? With the clothes you wear, people think you're a boy." I felt even more terrible that I put her in this weird conversation with her mom. Good to know we can all agree that the mother was the real dick in this situation. I, a male, hadn't gotten a haircut in a while and was in a hardware store with my aunt. I hear, "Can I help you ladies with anything?" from behind me. Since he was clearly addressing us, I turned and said, "Gosh, maybe a haircut." I had a good laugh about it. I wouldn't dwell on your fitting room situation. You're definitely not an asshole. And if people are sensitive about the way they choose to be, that's on them. And you can't control someone else's mother. For years I used the "same thing happened to me" line whenever someone opened up to me. Instead of just shutting up and listening to them. But yeah, working on it. When you fight with your friend over something, leave, then realize they were right. I rang and paid for a mowing service, and when the guy rocked up, I started telling him that I can't mow the lawn myself anymore, as my injured ankle would play up and hurt for the rest of the day. Then he got out of the car, and I realized he was an amputee from the knee down. I blamed my fart on a mentally challenged boy in 5th grade. In middle school, I saw a kid walking around with a fanny pack, so I snickered and said, "Nice fanny pack." He said, "It's for my insulin. Just got diagnosed with diabetes." At the movies once, it was just me and friends and one other group sitting in front. There was a guy in front that kept slurping on an icy really loudly. Like he just really wanted to get every last drop. After a few minutes I got really agitated and made a super obnoxious and loud slurping sound to make them aware that it was annoying me. Literally as soon as I did it I saw that it was a disabled man and his parents, and he had a suction tube. I was so ashamed I walked out of the theater quietly whispering to them I'm so sorry. I never went back in. My girlfriend recently dumped me. Looking around my room and seeing all the things they bought me and being reminded of all the things they did for me, and then noticing I hardly did anything in return. I told my friend that she shouldn't use medication for her mental illness because I was convinced she could just use sheer will to get through it. It was an asshole move to make her second-guess getting professional help to address her mental health issues. I wish I just instead offered support instead of trying to fix it when she mentioned the side effects when I had no idea what I was talking about. This was when I was a teenager and thought I knew everything. I asked two black ladies at work what language they were speaking. I am really big into languages and I felt like I hadn't heard the one they were speaking before. English. They were speaking English and they just both happened to have really thick accents. One day while I was walking on the street, some kids kicked a ball in my direction. I was going to pass it back, but I thought one of the kids closer would just get it. I decided to keep walking. I looked back at the kid, and I could see the look of disappointment on his face. I felt like biggest asshole on the planet for a few days. I still feel bad thinking about it. My girlfriend and I were walking past a middle school in downtown Manhattan. As we pass by the fence, some guy asks me, "Hey, what time is it?" I say 2:00. The man starts ringing a bell and shouts, "All right, everyone inside." My girlfriend smacks me on the arm and says it's only 1:54. I was the asshole who cut these kids' recess short by 6 minutes. At HS graduation, a friend of mine was a foreign exchange student from Italy and her parents were at the ceremony. I went up to them and just shouted, "Hi, I love Italians." I just felt like a douchebag in that moment. Every time my kid asks to try what I'm eating I always say that it's spicy and he won't like it, so I don't have to share. I started covering everything I eat in jalapenos and red pepper because it's the only way to stop my brother from eating it all. Take solace in the fact that you're not actually at that step yet. My other brother and I made enough spaghetti for a week. It was all gone in 12 hours. I got one bowl. I used to tend bar. I was very busy at a freestanding bar. I was literally surrounded. I went to wait on the next customer. I made eye contact and asked what I could get him as I turned to throw something away. He gave no response. I asked again as I started wiping up a spot someone had vacated, no response. This kept going a couple more times. As customers were building up, I turned with a bit of attitude and said something to the effect of, "Sir, I'm getting deeper in the weeds and all these other people are getting pissed. You need to order or move aside so others can." He then informed me that he was deaf and as I kept turning away, he couldn't read my lips. Oh fuck, I am an asshole. My buddy wanted to set me up with a new coworker of his. I got to his apartment early and started getting drunk with his roommate. He called and said they were going to be late. He said, "She's a bigger girl. Don't mention her weight." He had told me this previously as well. By the time they showed up, I was pretty drunk and I wanted to make a good impression. I said, "You're not nearly as fat as they said you were." She turned around and fled. I honked my horn at a car that stopped and blocked the road. Only for a really old frail woman to slowly get out and very slowly get across to a food shop. This was during the last lockdown. And was probably the only way she could get food. I still lie awake wishing I could say sorry, but it wasn't possible.